Hello, it's Josie from Basic Horse Training, and today we're going to show you just how I plait my horses up for competition. I certainly don't pretend to be a plaiting guru, and I'm not, but I'll just show you my way. What you'll notice is when I get to the actual plaiting of the mane, it looks a little different because that's actually on the day before the competition. What we noticed was the very beginning I had an audio issue, so we're just reshooting the beginning, but it'll all work out. First, I'm going to show you what you should have when you're plaiting up. I have, because I like everything with me, a little bum bag. Mine's as old as the hills and broken, so I just tie it on. So you need a bum bag. You need some thread. I use a reel of thread because I've got lots of chestnut horses. A mane brush to give your mane a brush, which I've already done. A good sharp pair of scissors. A mane comb, I like the metal ones. My little secret weapon, which I'll show you as I do what that is. And some needles. Now, these are plastic ones that you can get from a horse shop. I use a metal one, of which, if you have a look, spider, I have no food. I've ground the tip off, so it's actually not sharp, so I don't hurt the horse. The other thing you'll need is some pro plaits, but you'll see that in a bit. And, oh, I nearly forgot the rubber bands. Obviously, you need some rubber bands. So I put the rubber bands in my mouth when I'm doing this, so hopefully I'll be able to talk to you. And the first thing I do is section the hair off how I want it. I have a reasonable piece left for the forelock, which I actually braid, and I leave enough there so that the bridle will sit, that will actually be braided so it's flat and the bridle will sit nicely on that. He's had his mane thinned and shortened, obviously. I'll do another video on that, and what you need to do is just segment it into the pieces you want. So depending on how thick or thin the mane is, depends on how big these pieces are. After a few years of doing it, I sort of know about how fat I want it to give me the effect. Grab a section and the rubber band, and I'll just section it off. Another section, and what you want to aim for, if you can, I'll just section this off, is for them to be about the same fatness where the rubber band sits around the middle, because that will give you even plaits in size. What you'll find, see this section here is just a little bit, tiny bit fatter. It's not too bad. What you'll find, where the mane is thicker, you actually have to take smaller sections. And this boy had a very thick mane on his crest bit here, but I've actually thinned it out, so it's not too bad. So you just go down and section your mane off into your individual pieces. Now, that one is way too small, that section there, and it would actually be quite a small little plait, which would end up looking a little bit silly. I do know in one of my other horses, my grey horse, that I don't have anymore. I've given him to my niece, but he had a really thin mane, and I could just basically one comb width was very good for him. So you just work your way down, sectioning the mane off. I think there is actually a rule that says you should have uneven number down the neck so that your forelock makes an even number. It's not something I'm really sure about, that fact, and I don't actually care. I just do it. I'm sure the dressage judges don't actually sit and count your plaits. And we'll go on, and I'll just move on down the neck and section them off, and then we'll start plaiting. Okay, well, hopefully we've got our audio figured out. Forgot to tell you two things: damp sponge, and I use a thing called Pro Plaits, which is basically like hairspray. Starting from this end, this is where my amazing little clip comes in, which I don't have in my little bum bag, so I shall just... Apparently I do have it. Oh, there it is. My little clip that I showed you. This is what it's for. Just clips all of them out the way so you don't have to worry about them getting in your way. The rubber band I used, I pop on my finger. I'm just going to damp this a little bit. Put a little bit of Pro Plaits in it. Spider might go, oh my gosh, what's that noise? And he thinks I might just have some sugar, but I assure you I don't. Just gonna. This is why you do the top first, while you've got some patience, because if they're going up, down and all around, it's quite frustrating. I just section it off into 3 pieces. I just move myself in a bit closer. You don't have to cross tie your horse for this. I do tie it up at the float at an event if I've got enough time. And just a plait. Now the trick is to make your plait as tight as you can make it, especially up the top there. So I sort of plait it and then hold it with my thumb and plait down to as far down as you can possibly go. Some people cut the ends of these after when they've got bits hanging out. I hate that because it just ruins your mane afterwards. And so just rubber band that little bit there, and I'll show you what I do with that end bit. Get it nice and firm, and then I just fold that on itself. Can you see that? And then just wind the rubber band around, 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 and let it go. And then your end's tucked under like that. And then I'll show you how that's finished. I'll just do another one. So move this down here. I just damp it down to try and keep all the hair together. Rubber band on my finger. You can look after that for me, Spider. Bit of hairspray. Comb it through. Section it off. I usually have actually a couple of rubber bands on my finger because at some stage you'll be winding one around and it will break. And what you want is not to let go of your plait to go fishing for another rubber band. So at the end of this one I will probably just put a couple on my fingers. So I'm pulling that fairly tightly as I go. Down as far as I can get without getting ridiculous. When I start to lose them, you'll know what I mean, they start to come undone again. So I just hold it, swap it, put the rubber band around it. And Wayne, if you can just come in close here. Then, once I've got it and I've still got some rubber band, that's my little tail bit there. I fold it underneath and then I wind this around and around and around and around and then let go, and that's my little end tucked under there, and you won't be able to see them later, you'll see. Oh, that's right, I'll just pop a couple more rubber bands on my fingers in case I end up breaking one, and then I'd be really frustrated if I had to let a plait go just to find a rubber band. Okay, so I just section it off roughly. Some people do nice neat sections with a comb. Plaiting's not my favourite pastime. What an itchy snoz, Spider. Just be careful you don't wet the mane too much. Don't mind the dog drinking out of the bucket that's actually to damp the sponge with. So here I've actually got a little bit, I've got one shorter and two a lot longer. So I'll just take it, that's as far as I can get it before I'm starting to lose it. So I will just rubber band it. fold the tail and wrap it up in the rubber band. Make sure you fold it underneath, not on the top. All right, Spidey. There we go. This is just amazing. I couldn't plait without one of these. When I used to, I couldn't work out how to get the hair out the way. It was always in my way. So you just continue to do this up the horse's neck. So I won't make you watch me do all of them. We might even just cut the video and I'll come back and show you when they're done. Okay, so we've made all our little plaits up, as you can see here. You need to get your needle and your thread and a pair of scissors. And I'll show you how we're going to do this. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning is don't wash your mane. It's much easier to work with a dirty mane. Obviously, if you've got a grey horse, you have to wash them, which is not so good. But Spider's had a bath today and all his white's been washed, and his tail did get washed, but his mane is not. So hopefully you can keep your horse's attention, which is why I said start up here, because I've got a bit of patience. By the time I've been doing this for a while, he's wriggling. I try not to lose it, but it does get frustrating. So get your needle, and this is how I do it. I'll just move my crate a bit further forward. So I just actually go underneath the rubber band there, and I actually just go under again, hold my little tail bit there and pull it tight on the rubber band. So that's got it. Whoops, that one's going to slip if I pull too much, and the last thing I want to do is do all of the plait and have it slip. So I'm just going to pull it through again, and I might just go back through there to tie a little knot. Okay, so what I do here is go into the base of the plait, lift it up, mind your horse's neck, but mine's not sharp, and push it through out the top there. Spider's being ever so good and looking over there so you can see, but it's making it hard for me. And then I just gently pull this one up, and I'll help bend this, hope you can see it, in half so that this bit ends up where I put it through the plait. So now I've got like a little tail like that, and I pull it up. Can you see that? So it's literally just folded in half. Now what I'm going to do is take my needle and thread it through the plait that's underneath. You can't actually see it, but I can feel it. So I go and I wiggle it, come out, go back through it, come out, go back through it, and come out at the bottom of that plait. And then gently just pull all of the thread through. So now I've actually sort of stitched these two together as such in a flat pack. I'll just let him have a little itch because there are some mozzies around here, which I think the horses in the paddock are running from. Take your needle and go back through the bottom again, and I try and secure those rubber bands there if I can. Come back out here, pull it up, and then if you just gently pull this, make sure you try and keep it neat. Like my loop was going to the left, so I try and hold it in the middle, and if I gently pull this, it pulls up into a little rosette. And then I will just go from the back to the front, keep the thread out the way, pull through, go backwards, come back through to the front, go back, get my scissors, give it a pull, so I've got a bit of tension on it, and cut down low, and that hides back in the mane. And there's my first one done. Do that one again for you. So go underneath. I just let him have an itch. Tie to the rubber band. I still have rubber bands here because sometimes they'll just snap and it's very frustrating, but if you've got hold of your plait, you can save it. So back through there so that it's tied there. Back with my needle through the very base and out the back here. Pull it up until it's nice and flat and it's doubled over. Squeeze it together and come down. If I could, so I sort of go out there and then come back through, and I do it all without taking the needle through, so it's a bit like lacing it. So now I've come back out the front here, and now I'll go back down the bottom there, and try and find your way out in the middle of the plait. And if you're not out in the middle, which I'm a little bit off that one, I'll just put it back under. It doesn't really matter. There we go. Now I'm out in the middle. I go back down here and try and anchor this bit again and come out at the base. And give it a gentle pull up, just gently. I don't pull it hard. And give this a bit of sewing in here. So I'm just stitching backwards and forwards. You can't see the cotton unless you go and look for it. And trust me, the judges are sitting in cars in Australia. They're not going to see my thread, and they're not going to see actually that there's, because there's obviously quite a few hairs here, because Spider had a very, very thick mane, and in thinning it out, we got a few odd lengths. So I pull this quite firmly and cut down here, because that makes it, it pops back into the actual braid and you can't see the loose end. Again, tie it off on the rubber band. Always check that you've actually tied it, because sometimes when you pull it, it'll slip through, and if you're halfway through doing your plait and you pull it and it slips through and you lose it, sorry, mozzies are out, it's very frustrating. Pull it up through the base. This is actually quite a little plait and is probably almost should have been made into two. So I've pulled that through the bottom, put it back through here, pull this up into a little bauble, and then sew it off. Oh, and I've got a little knot there, which I don't want, because I really don't want all of that hanging out of the front of my plait. Look like I'm going to actually end up with it because it's gotten fairly tight. I'll see if I can pull it through. Yep, I got it through. So I was very lucky there. And I'll just tie it off. I'll just pull it backwards and forwards a bit. There we go. And that's actually now hidden in the plait. All right, I will continue on doing this. And we'll come back when I'm finished and I'll show you how I finish it off. Okay, so we've done the neck, as you can see. There's a few loose hairs. I did say I'm no expert at it. Some of these really loose ones, I'll just give my little plaits a little spray and just try and flatten down some of the hair there. Now, what you can notice is probably out of all of them, these four are the best plaits, and that's because I was standing directly in front of them when I was actually plaiting them. And these are all slightly twisted because I was plaiting up there so that you could see what I was doing. So you do need to try and move your whatever you're standing on so that you can actually be standing right in front of where you're plaiting. So that is Spider's plaits done for the day. Okay, so just grab a section, 3 pieces, one on either side and one from the centre. Start to plait like a normal plait, once over, this one over, and then when you're about, I hold these bits in my little finger, when you're bringing your third piece back over again, you bring it over and you grab a piece from the side. I'm sure there's tutorials out there on braiding, and I am far from the expert. And I've brought that bit over and you bring a little piece in from the other side. And I have to say, my forelocks are never that tidy for some reason. Probably because I need to do more practice at it. The hardest bit I find is not actually getting loads of hair, like as in not adding too much in, keeping it separated. No, it's not too bad. Good boy. and you're being a very good boy considering you've never had this done before. Just wait. Good boy. So each time I bring a piece over, I add a segment from the side and it alternates. And the hardest bit, as I said, is keeping all of this from getting knotted up. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah, I know. And one from this side. I hope we don't get to the end and I don't have a rubber band on my finger. I really won't be happy. I didn't think about that to start with. Good boy. And I've got one more to do. And once you've got all of the braiding, thanks Spider, which is the last bit there, it just becomes a plait like you were doing before. So just plait to the end. I'm trying to keep it fairly tight. Hopefully Spider's giving you a lovely view of it there. I've got some loose hair here. I probably should get in and sort that out, but I'm not going to. Because the mozzies are bad. It's getting late. I've got some rubber bands. Good. Same thing as you did up there. My tail's a bit longer. It won't matter, and I'll show you why in a minute. But flip it under. And just give it a little twirl. Good. Now, get your needle and thread. Do exactly the same. You're a good boy, aren't you, young man? So I'll just tie this off on here. Make sure it's not going to come, because this one I'm going to tie off twice because it gets a bit of pressure on it, as you'll see in a minute. Get your horse's head in the middle. Now what you want to do is take your needle and gently, so that you don't stick him in the head, pass it all the way back up, and hopefully it's just come out the top of the plait there. So there it is there, and then I'm just going to fold this under, keeping that little tail, Spider, as tight as I can, and it's going to go. You can do it, there's hooks that you can do, but I just do it this way. And I'm just giving that a good pull, and I'm actually pulling that tail up inside that braid. And then I'm just going to come down a little bit here to secure it, because I don't want it to come out. Hence you don't want a sharp needle, because you really don't want to stick your horse if you can help it. Good boy. And I'm going to thread it back up that way. And I'm just going to tie it off here, backwards and forwards, just gently. Come here, Spider. Underneath there. Whoops, my thread came undone. I'll just rethread that needle. And I'm just going to put it through there. And then get my little pair of scissors, which are on the ground now. So what I'm actually going to do is just pull this and take the needle off, so I don't end up losing it, or he flicks his head and it pokes him in the eye. Get my scissors, get my long thread, pull it up nice and high, push down on the hair and cut, and now it's disappeared inside there. And there he is. There's his little plaits. What a good boy. What a good boy. Awesome. I hope that helped you out, and I hope you can see how I do my plaits. And just remember, you need to practice them. When I first did them, they didn't look like that, and I actually haven't plaited for nearly a year, so it's been a little while since I've practiced, and by the end of the next couple of months, because we're out competing again, my plaits will look better. Thank you. Well, I thought I'd better show you how to take them out, since I showed you how to put them in. These have been in Spider for nearly 24 hours now. We've been and done our competition. He was a very good boy and managed to come home with 2 firsts, a 67.3% and a 75%, which also gives us a couple of qualies for our state championships here. So we will go and be able to enter those. Now the flies are bad here, so hopefully you can see. They're not hard to get out at all. What you do is you grab your rosette, and I'll put his fly veil back on him afterwards, but I don't want it on him at the moment, and you lift it up, and if Wayne can zoom in there, you'll be able to see underneath all of the cotton. And all you need to do is get a sharp pair of scissors, and I don't actually snip because then I don't want to cut main, I just slide it along the blade and I don't end up cutting main, I just end up cutting the cotton. And then if you pull a little bit more, you'll get to find another piece, just snip that, snip that, snip that. And then the same thing with your rubber band, just use the blade of your scissors if you've got sharp ones, and that way you don't actually cut any of the horse's mane. And then just pull that one out, and that is now undone, and I haven't had to actually cut any of his mane. Do it again, I'll show you again. So you lift the rosette up, and underneath there you'll see the cotton, and if you can't see it, trust me, when you're up as close as I am you can, just use the sharp blade of the scissors. See, I just cut the cotton, I'm not cutting any mane. Same with the rubber band, and that's the second one out. And I'll do one more to show you so you can see how easy they are to come out. So get the rosette, lift it to see underneath. You might sometimes need to give it a little bit of a stretch. Look for one piece. As soon as you start cutting one piece of cotton, it all actually loosens up. I don't ever chop with the scissors because I don't want to take a chunk of my horse's mane out. And you don't need to. Rubber band. Pull that off. And there it is undone. Super duper easy. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.